You finish the project. The thing you have been working on for months, maybe years. You complete it with precision, with care, with everything you had to give, and then you look up, you look around, waiting for something, waiting for someone to notice, to acknowledge, to applaud. But the room is quiet. Your phone does not light up with congratulations. No one asks about it. No one knows. And in that silence, something terrible happens. The achievement itself begins to feel like it never occurred, as if the doing only becomes real when it is seen, when it is witnessed, when someone else validates that yes, this matters, yes, you did well. You have trained yourself, without even realizing it, to measure every victory by the volume of applause that follows. And now, in the absence of that sound, you feel hollow. Not because the work was meaningless, but because you have forgotten how to let it mean something to you alone. This is not weakness in the way we usually think of weakness. This is something far more insidious. It is the slow erosion of your capacity to recognize your own strength, your own progress, your own worth, without the mirror of other people's reactions reflecting it back to you. What I want to examine with you is not how to stop caring what others think. That advice is everywhere, and it is mostly useless because it misunderstands the problem. The problem is not that you care about others. The problem is that you have outsourced the entire measure of your existence to their gaze. You have made yourself dependent on applause, not because you are insecure, though that might be part of it, but because you have been taught that this is how achievement works. You do the thing, others recognize it, and only then does it count. This is the mechanism that keeps you performing rather than living. This is what makes you weak while you are trying so hard to appear strong. Because real strength, the kind that actually sustains you, the kind that lets you continue when no one is watching, when no one will ever know, when the work itself must be its own reward, this strength cannot be built on the foundation of other people's attention. It crumbles the moment they look away, and they always look away. Not because they do not care about you, but because they are human, and human attention is limited, fleeting, directed by their own needs and lives and struggles. You cannot build a self on such unstable ground. Hannah Arendt wrote about the vita activa, the active life, and she understood something crucial about human action. She understood that we act in a public sphere, that our deeds do appear before others, that we are political and social creatures who exist in relation to one another. But she also understood the danger of reducing action to mere performance, of confusing appearance with reality, of letting the spectacle replace the substance. When you do something only so that it can be seen, only so that it can be applauded, you are not acting in the fullest sense. You are performing. And performance requires an audience. Remove the audience, and the performance loses its meaning. This is why you feel so empty when no one notices. Not because the thing you did lacks value, but because you have structured your entire sense of doing around being seen doing it. The act itself has become secondary to its reception, and this is where your strength goes to die. Think about how you choose what to pursue. Be honest with yourself about this. How much of what you attempt, what you strive for, what you call your goals, is chosen because you imagine the moment of recognition that will follow? The promotion that comes with a title others understand, the achievement that photographs well, the transformation that can be posted, quantified, displayed. There is nothing wrong with wanting recognition. We are social beings. We need each other. But when recognition becomes the primary motivation, when you cannot even conceive of doing something that no one will ever know about, you have lost access to a vast territory of possible action. You have cut yourself off from all the work that matters precisely because it is invisible, all the growth that happens in private, all the strength that is built in obscurity. The person you could become if you were not constantly performing for an audience, that person remains undiscovered, because you never stop looking around for approval long enough to find out who you are when no one is watching. If this perspective is opening something up for you, consider subscribing. I explore these territories every week, and I would love to have you along for the journey. Now, let us go deeper into what applause actually does to you. It is not neutral. It is not simply pleasant feedback that happens to accompany your achievements. Applause changes the structure of your motivation. It becomes the goal itself, replacing whatever you originally set out to do. You start running not to strengthen your body or clear your mind, but to post about running. You start creating not for the joy of making something, but for the moment of sharing it, the likes, the comments, the validation. And at first, this seems to work. The applause comes. It feels good. It feels like proof that you are on the right track. But slowly, imperceptibly, you start needing it. You start checking for it. You start feeling anxious when it does not come quickly enough or in sufficient volume. You start comparing the applause you receive to the applause others receive, and now you are no longer engaged in your own life. You are engaged in a competition for attention that never ends, that you can never win, that exhausts you while giving you nothing of substance in return. The strong person, the genuinely strong person, sees this trap and walks away from it. Not because they do not want to be seen or appreciated, but because they understand that making applause the measure corrupts everything it touches. I know many of you watching this have never told anyone about this particular struggle. You have been carrying this alone maybe for years, performing constantly but feeling empty, wondering why achievement never seems to satisfy you, why every victory feels incomplete without someone there to witness it. But here is what I want you to understand. The moment you name this, the moment you acknowledge it out loud, even just in a comment, something shifts. You stop being alone with it. So let me ask you directly, how long have you been measuring your worth by other people's reactions? When did you first notice that you could not enjoy your own accomplishments without someone else validating them? I want you to share in the comments, not because I need engagement, but because someone else watching this needs to see your words. They need to know they are not the only one. And if you cannot find the words right now, if it feels too heavy to articulate, just type this: I have been performing my whole life. That is it. Just those 6 words. Because when you do, you create permission for dozens of others to say it too. Your honesty, your willingness to be seen in your struggle, it helps break the silence that keeps all of us trapped in this cycle. So comment below. Tell me where you are in this. I read every single one, and I promise you, you are not alone in what you are feeling. What does it mean to win without applause? Let us be precise about this because the words matter. It does not mean winning and then pretending you do not notice that no one applauded. That is just another form of performance, the performance of not caring about performance. It means doing the thing for reasons that have nothing to do with whether anyone will ever know you did it. It means completing the project because completing it matters to you, because you gave your word to yourself, because the work itself calls to you, because you are interested in what you will discover in the process. It means measuring success by standards that are yours, not borrowed from others, not assumed from culture, not copied from people you admire. Your standards, your reasons, your sense of what constitutes a win. This is harder than it sounds because most of us have never developed our own standards. We have always used other people as the measuring stick. We look at what gets applauded and we aim for that. We look at what gets ignored and we avoid it. This is efficient in a certain sense. It keeps us oriented towards social acceptance, but it also keeps us weak because we never develop the capacity to know for ourselves what matters, what is worth doing, what constitutes our own life well lived. Arendt understood that action, real action, is unpredictable. You cannot control how others will receive what you do. You cannot guarantee the applause. And if applause is your goal, then you are always at the mercy of forces beyond your control. You become reactive rather than active. You start performing a version of strength rather than embodying it. True strength, the kind that does not evaporate when no one is looking, comes from a different source entirely. It comes from alignment with something internal, something you have decided matters regardless of external validation. This sounds abstract, so let me make it concrete. Think about learning a skill that no one in your life cares about. Learning it anyway, for years, becoming quite good at it, and never mentioning it to anyone. Can you imagine this? Many people cannot. The idea of doing something, of becoming competent at something without ever telling anyone about it, feels almost impossible. Why would you do that? What would be the point? And this question reveals everything. The point is the doing itself. The point is who you become in the process. The point is that you decided it mattered and you followed through, and that is enough. Or think about acts of integrity when no one is watching. The small choices you make when you could get away with cutting corners, when no one would ever know, when there is zero social benefit to doing the right thing. These moments are where real strength is forged. Not in the grand gestures that get applauded, but in the quiet decisions that only you know about. The person who does the right thing when it counts toward nothing external, that person has developed a kind of strength that cannot be taken away by changes in social approval. That person has something to stand on that is not dependent on the crowd. This is not moral superiority. This is practical wisdom. Because the crowd is fickle, the trends change. The things that get applauded today get ignored tomorrow. And if you have built your entire sense of self on pleasing the crowd, you are in constant crisis, constantly adjusting, constantly performing, constantly exhausted by the effort of maintaining appearances. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes from living for applause. It is the suffering of never feeling like you have done enough. Because the applause is never sufficient. There is always someone getting more recognition, someone whose achievements are more visible, someone whose wins are louder. And even when you do get applause, it fades almost immediately. You need more. You need it again. You need it louder this time. The mechanism is exactly like addiction, and for the same reason. You are seeking externally something that can only be provided internally. You are asking other people to give you what you can only give yourself. The sense that you are okay. The sense that what you did matters. The sense that you are enough. No amount of applause can provide this because applause is about them, not about you. They are reacting from their own needs, their own moment, their own concerns. Their approval tells you something about them and almost nothing about you, and yet you have made it the measure of your worth. Learning to win without applause is learning to provide for yourself what you have been begging others to give you. It is learning to notice your own progress, to recognize your own growth, to acknowledge your own achievements without needing someone else to validate them first. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is performing strength while feeling weak. This is actual strength, quiet strength, the strength that lets you keep going when the conditions are not favorable, when no one is cheering, when the work is hard and invisible, and no one will ever throw you a parade for finishing it. This is the strength that builds a life rather than an image of a life. This is the strength that lets you sleep at night, because you know who you are when no one else is looking. You know what you have done. You know what you stand for. And this knowing is not dependent on anyone else confirming it. Arendt talked about natality, the capacity for new beginnings, the fact that each person brings into the world the possibility of starting something unprecedented. But this capacity is stifled when we are constantly looking over our shoulder for approval. You cannot start something truly new if you are only willing to do what will be recognized, what fits into existing categories, what others can immediately understand and applaud. The new, the genuinely new, is often met with indifference or confusion. It takes time for people to understand it. Sometimes they never do. If you need applause to continue, you will abandon the new thing the moment the applause does not come. You will retreat to the safe, the conventional, the easily recognized, and your capacity for genuine action, for bringing something unprecedented into the world, will atrophy. You will become a performer of other people's scripts rather than an author of your own life. And this is a tragedy, not in a dramatic sense, but in the sense that a possibility is foreclosed. A life is not lived, a person is not discovered. So what do you do with this understanding? You begin simply by noticing. Notice how much of your motivation is structured around the anticipated response of others. Notice how you feel when you accomplish something and no one notices. Notice the impulse to share, to announce, to make sure people know. Notice how you measure success. Notice what you avoid because it would not be impressive to others. Notice what you pursue primarily for how it will look. This noticing is not about judging yourself. It is about seeing clearly what is actually happening so you can make different choices if you want to. Most people never notice. They live their entire lives in the performance, never realizing there is another way to exist. The fact that you are watching this, the fact that something in you resonates with what I am saying, means you are already beginning to wake up to the possibility of a different relationship with your own strength. Then you experiment. You try doing something, anything, without telling anyone about it. Something small at first, a project, a practice, a commitment. You do it for your own reasons, whatever those are, and you complete it without sharing it. You notice what comes up. The urge to announce it, to get credit, to make sure people know. You notice this urge and you do not act on it. You let the urge exist while you sit with the simple fact of having done the thing. You notice whether the thing feels less real because it was not witnessed. You notice whether you feel less real. And you start to question whether this is actually true, whether something needs to be seen to exist, whether you need to be applauded to be real. Slowly, through this practice, you start to build a different kind of muscle. The muscle of internal validation, the muscle of self-acknowledgement, the muscle of knowing what you have done without needing someone else to confirm it for you. This does not mean you become isolated or that you stop sharing your life with others. It means you stop making their reaction the measure of whether your life matters. You share because you want to connect, because you want to offer something, because you are genuinely excited, not because you need them to validate your existence. Can you feel the difference? One is generous, the other is desperate. One comes from fullness, the other from lack. One is strong, the other is weak, disguised as strong. The strong person shares freely, but does not crumble in the absence of applause. The weak person shares strategically, constantly checking to see if it worked, if they got the response they needed, if they are enough yet. The difference is everything. What you find when you start to live this way is a peculiar kind of freedom. It is the freedom of not needing permission to matter. It is the freedom of not being constantly at the mercy of other people's attention spans and moods and priorities. It is the freedom of being able to do difficult things for long periods of time without the reward of recognition, because the doing itself is the point. This freedom is not flashy. It will not get you more followers. It will not make you more popular, but it will make you more real, more solid, more present to your own life. And this realness, this solidity, is what you have been seeking all along through the applause. You have been trying to feel real by being seen. But you can only feel real by being present to yourself, by noticing your own experience, by acknowledging your own progress, by developing your own measures of what matters. The applause was always a substitute for something you can only give yourself. If what I am sharing here resonates with something you have been feeling, something you have not quite been able to name, then I want you to know you are not alone in this. There are many of us exploring these questions, sitting with these uncomfortable truths, learning to see in new ways. I create these videos for people who are ready to go deeper, who are not satisfied with surface answers, who want to understand rather than just feel better temporarily. If that is you, consider subscribing, not because you need another channel to follow, but because this journey of understanding yourself, of waking up to what is real, it helps to have companions along the way. People who will not offer you easy fixes but will sit with you in the questions. I will be here every week with another exploration, another perspective, another thread to pull on, and I would be honored to have you here as part of this community of seekers and thinkers. So if this feels right, hit that subscribe button. And if you found value in this particular exploration, let me know in the comments what resonated most with you. Your reflections often illuminate things I had not considered. Now let us return to where we began. You finish the project, you look up. The room is quiet, and this time, instead of feeling hollow, instead of immediately reaching for your phone to announce what you have done, you sit with it. You sit with the simple fact of completion. You notice what it took to get here. The hours, the decisions, the times you kept going when you did not feel like it, the times you chose this over something easier, the growth that happened in you that no one else can see. You notice all of this not as a replacement for external validation, but as the thing that actually matters. The applause, when it comes, is nice. You are human. You appreciate being seen, but your sense of having accomplished something is no longer dependent on whether the applause comes or how loud it is. You have given yourself what you needed. You have acknowledged your own work. You have measured it against your own standards and found it sufficient. And in this moment, you understand what strength actually is. Not the performance of strength for an audience, but the quiet capacity to continue regardless of whether anyone is watching. Not the appearance of winning, but the reality of having done what you said you would do, of having met yourself in the challenge, of having grown in ways that may never be visible to anyone else, but are completely real to you. This is not the end of caring what others think. It is the end of being controlled by it. It is the beginning of a different way of moving through the world, where you can receive appreciation when it comes without depending on it, where you can act without the guarantee of applause, where your strength comes from alignment with what you have decided matters, rather than from the volume of recognition you receive. And this shift, subtle as it may seem, changes everything about how you experience being alive. You stop living as if you are always on stage, always being evaluated, always needing to prove something. You start living as if your life is your own, as if what you do with it is between you and your own sense of meaning, as if the most important audience is not out there but in here. And paradoxically, when you stop performing strength, when you stop needing applause, you become genuinely strong. The kind of strong that does not announce itself because it does not need to. The kind of strong that simply is quietly, consistently, without fanfare. The kind of strong that lets you win, truly win, whether anyone is watching or not.